Good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, whenever and wherever you happen to be watching this stream. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. I am Tracy VE3TWM. I am joined by my co hosts, Chris Kilo 2 Charlie Juliet Bravo and Tim November 9 Sierra Alpha Bravo. We have a very special guest tonight, Peter VE3NNP, who's going to talk to us about stealth antennas. Not just stealth antennas, but effective and very capable stealth antennas. It's going to be a fascinating discussion. Just before we get into that, though, a couple of notes. First of all, you may see the ticker at the bottom of the screen. As many of you know, Tim, November 9 Sierra Alpha Bravo, has an eBay store and he sells HF antennas. Somebody watching tonight is going to win one of those, a $100 gift certificate towards an antenna from Tim's store. So that's kind of a nice thing, and make sure that you're hanging around. We'll do that draw a little bit later on, and you have to be here on the stream to be able to cash in on that one. I'm gonna pass the ball over to Chris right now. Chris, what's been happening ham radio wise in your neck of the woods past few weeks?
Well, quite a bit actually. First thing was I've been doing a lot of 10-meter operations since the sunspots have been really screaming along, which has been awesome. And I have a couple of trophies, I think, on that. I worked on 10 meters foam, single sideband. I worked Saudi Arabia, I worked Japan. And it was those are real treats to be able to do that. I also I don't know if anybody recognized, like during the month of January, there were a lot of HF stations that had DX stations that had a WRTC suffix at the end of their call sign, and then in the United States it was just a one by one, like a W2W, or it's that kind of thing. But what it was the WRTC was running an on-air event, so. I worked a couple of stations and I poked around their website. Sure enough, the guys were actually, all the operators that were involved in this had active logs on the WRTC site. So when you worked somebody, your call showed up. And they gave points for, like, it was 1 point for sideband contact, 3 points for CW, that kind of thing. And if you got 100 points or more, you got a certificate. So yours truly, when I got toward the end, and it was only during the month of January. So when I got like January 29th, I was like, oh man, I got to get more points. So I went on. And one night I said, I'm going to be brave. And I literally dusted off my paddle to do some CW, make some CW contact. Well, I got to tell you, the paddle was not set up right. And I made these contacts with this operator on like 2 bands, and it was a disaster every time. Like I kept getting extra dots and dashes. It was just terrible. I actually emailed the guy and I said, I'm so sorry for those contacts. I said, I haven't operated CW in I don't know how long. And here I am trying to operate this guy who's trying to make as many contacts as he can. I said, my paddles were a mess. I really apologize for it. I said, and the guy wrote back and he said, no problem. He's glad to see we got CW operators out there. So,
wow.
But that was it. I've been mostly on 10.
Excellent.
And like I said, Saudi Arabia was new for me, and Japan on 10 was new for me. So that was really cool.
Good stuff. Very cool. That's awesome, Chris. There's 2 countries I've never worked. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Tim, November 9, Sierra Alpha Bravo in Illinois. What's going on over your way?
I've got Japan. I don't have Saudi Arabia, though. I'm going to have to get in on that.
Yeah. HZ1HZ. That's how I work.
No kidding. I can hear them sometimes. I mean, they'll come up and watch and run digital for a little bit, and I receive them and I decode them, but I don't. I've never had any luck going the other way. But maybe that'll change now. So what's new here? Well, Tracy and I were talking, and he sent me a Christmas present, right? Which was like a gift certificate through Amazon, which I thought was really cool and nice. But when I get gifts, I have to reciprocate them. So I had been looking around to try and get something for Tracy. So funny as it seems, a QRP ARCI membership is $25, so it would be perfect, right? I'd been a member for years, and I go, the magazine shows up, and I go do it, but it's one of those things that oh, the magazine's here, I'll read it later, and off it goes, right? So I started digging into it a little more, and I ended up joining a message board where I was trying to figure out how to buy. There's no button on the website, buy membership, guest membership, whatever. It's just enter your call sign and renew. So I had to chase somebody down to figure out how to buy them a guest membership, right, or a gift membership, I should say. And I ended up attaching myself to this email board thread thing. It's like a Reddit board, right, where people's emails go back and forth all the time. So, and I just autopiloted the thing and let it stuck. So I've been getting all these emails, or copied on all these emails within the group, and it's actually quite fascinating. There's a number of conversations going back and forth about antennas and meters and all kinds of things. So I've been digging that because I pay more attention to my email than I do, just about anything else. So that's new. I never knew what I had all this time I had it. So I recommend it. If you, I don't know if you're Chris, are you a member? Have you heard of them?
Oh, I've heard of it, but I'm not in it though.
Yeah, they've got a thing. I guess if you go to Dayton, there's another. They have like a little offshoot. Then there's the 5 days in May thing that they do.
4 days in May. It's Thursday night. So I'm going to Dayton for the first time since 2004, and I'm going to try to be there.
Yeah, well, you're a member now, so you can flash your card and
Oh yes. No, it's going to be
give you
interesting.
a
Thank you.
badge.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was so that's cool. So not only did you get the gift membership, but I also rekindled a information pipeline that could be very fruitful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Busy.
Thank you. So are you selling any antennas these days, Tim?
No, not a thing. I'm just sit here and twiddle my thumbs. No. Okay. So get a load of this, right? So Julian, OHASTN, he and I had been talking back and forth because I appreciate what he does, right? I mean, that's, I would love to be able to do stuff like that. But I don't like the cold, so, but if I could get out there in the woods more and do something like that. So we were going back and forth, and he had been asking me some questions about, the antennas and stuff like that. So he put up a video and did a blog post on the 40 meter OCF that I do, which is like my favorite antenna too. So instantly I start getting all these orders through eBay, and it's just, and literally I sell 15 antennas a week, 20 antennas a week. And this was like 100 antennas a day, right? I was like, wow. Oh, okay, so we have to, so I'm a little bit behind. And I feel guilty about, cutting out to join the stream, but it'll be back to work here soon. So everybody who bought an antenna is going to get an antenna. I'm just a couple of days behind because this is nutty.
That's a good problem to have.
You know what? I love it. I complain every once in a while. Actually, my wife complains, but when I dig it. I wouldn't like to do anything else. I don't think so.
Good stuff.
That's it for here.
Good stuff, Peter. So what's been going on in the ham radio world for you over the past little while?
Well, I've been very busy preparing for springtime because I intend to upgrade my stealth antennas and probably put 2 more. So I'll probably have about 6 of them.
Wow.
I got 5 radios on HF, and I want to be able to make all those radios work independently. And of course, I've been busy making a test comparison between the ICOM 7610 versus the ICOM versus the FTDX 101D. And boy, did I discover a can of worms between those 2 radios. I won't discuss it now, but maybe in the future. But that's more or less what's happening. And aside from that, of course, I've been busy with chasing squirrels, because the antennas are up in the trees, and they tend to munch on them. So so go figure. So that's
That has never happened to me. I hear that all the time. People having trouble with squirrels and stuff like that. And we've got, I mean, here in Chicago, I've got squirrels, raccoons, possums, coyotes, and we got everything. But I've never had an issue with a squirrel chewing on my antenna. It's just,
Yeah. Well,
does that really happen? I mean,
oh yeah, it does. It does. So what I've done is I got a pop gun. Basically a brake gun, and it's not meant to kill those animals, but to more or less inflict maybe some pain, and so they would stop doing that.
So you just encourage them to stop? Is that
basically? And
you try out.
Like it or not, I don't want to kill anything. So the crazy thing is this: after I got the gun, they disappeared. They probably have a sixth sense in that regard. So I've been telling my wife, I said, what has happened? Maybe somebody has raised the red flag, and this guy simply disappeared. And it has been 3 or 4 days, and I haven't seen one.
So the best money ever spent was on that gun.
That is just the way it goes. The day you cancel your insurance policy is the day you'll get an
Exactly.
Very true. Yeah. So back to you there, Tracy.
Okay, good stuff. Just before we move into the main body of our chat tonight, then, I want to pay some attention to some of the comments we're getting. So David from Ottawa, VE3NNP, welcome. Thank you for joining us. David Vaughn says, oh boy, I hope it's me, referring to the gift certificate. Hang in there. It could very well be. It's nice to hear from you, David. David's a real, loves to take his 817 up into the mountains and operate HF portable. We got Michael from Labrador. Holy cow, God's country, VO2MS. Thanks,
hey,
Mike, for
Survivor Man did a thing in Labrador, didn't he?
Wow.
What's that?
Didn't Survivor Man, right?
Oh, heck yeah. He ran into a polar bear up there.
Was that the Labrador one?
Yep. Labrador. Yeah, absolutely. Here's an interesting one. N3JW, North Florida. They're expecting a storm. I hadn't heard anything about this.
Wow.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. There's a full-on blizzard.
When I saw his call come by, I was like, N3. I said, I have a friend of mine that lives in Central Florida who's N2JW. So
is that right?
I had to do a double text. Oh, is that him? No, it's not him.
half the country is under either, severe storm watch, tornado watch. It's literally a blizzard outside right now.
Oh, no kidding.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Can I tell you it was 62 here in Connecticut? I was loving it.
Oh, we've had the mildest winter in many years. February is normally deep freeze.
My weather today is your weather tomorrow, Chris. It's okay.
Yeah, I might skip. Buffalo likes to take some of that for itself, and so I might get lucky. Okay, so who else we got here? Yeah, good luck, N3JW, with that storm. Hunker down. We have Andrew, N1YLO. Hey, he ordered an N9 SAB off center fed, and let me tell you, that's one of my favorite antennas.
I'm sorry,
you're gonna love it, Andrew.
But it's just, it's just been inundated. I knew there would be a bump. I mean, it's okay. Oh, that's cool. But usually, no, not this. This is different. So I'm a little bit behind. I apologize. Everybody who ordered one would have gotten an email saying sorry, and then like a coupon if they ever want to buy another one. So
good stuff.
That's what I can do.
Okay, we got a ZL from New Zealand. ZL2
wow.
TOY. Dusty. Hey, good afternoon, Dusty. Juan Gonzalez from Chile. Love to get the guys in from South America. Tariq says, hey y'all. What else we got here? Levi. So Levi, greetings from Brazil. And you spelled it wrong. My wife is Portuguese. She tells me every time she sees it spelled that way on TV. Why did they always misspell Brazil?
Because that Brazil is spelled with a Z. That's why.
That's the I'm gonna leave that one right there. Okay. Constantino, long time watcher.
Americans spell it with a Z. That's how it's spelled. Don't you know that?
I'm moving on. Okay, Constantino, thank you. We got Ferris, N2FH, enjoy operating 1 watt or less. There's a man after my own heart. Marty, winter storm in California, 63.
Yeah. No sympathy. No sympathy.
Yeah. Oh, geez. All right. So what do we got here? Just, yep. Pedro. Pedro was born in Chile, lives in YVR now. Yeah, it does count. Absolutely, it counts in my book, Pedro. All right, let's get on with this. Thanks, everybody.
Not DXCC tonight.
Yeah, no kidding. That's pretty great. Okay.
You know what? We laugh about it a little bit, but I think one of the coolest things about what we're doing here is you get that larger international audience.
Yeah.
Which I don't see a lot of places other than here.
No, it's very cool.
Which I like. I like that. I like that better.
It's fantastic. All right, guys, I got a little story to weave here as I introduce how I met Peter. So some of you who have watched my channel may know that I had an Yaesu FT991A, which I used in the field. I did some testing with it. I saw what it was all about. Decided that while it's a great rig, it wasn't the rig for me for a portable application. So I sold it. Now, the rig that I had initially, and this is the way I do things, by the way, I sell a radio to help finance another radio. I don't just add a collection. I haven't got the wherewithal to do that. So I have to be fairly strategic in how I do these things. So my previous radio that I had sold to buy the 991A was an ICOM IC 7410. Now the 7410 was sort of the successor to the 746 Pro, but without 2 meters. So it covers all HF and 6 meters. Beautiful DSP on it, just a fantastic. No fish finder on it. Monochrome screen, so a lot of people didn't really care for that part of it. But nice big form factor, built-in tuner, antenna switch, just a whole bunch of features that I really liked, and I really didn't. I just don't feel the need at this point to have a fish finder on my radio. Anyway, I posted an ad on the Ontario Provincial Swap Shop page. They call it the Kitchener-Waterloo Amateur Radio Club, and everybody across the province and right across Canada actually advertise stuff, and so it's a real hotbed of used gear. I posted a wanted ad for a 7410. Peter replied to my post and said, "I might have something that you that you'd like." And he said, "I've got a 7410 and I'm thinking of selling it." So I come up to Peter's, I say, I saw some photos, it looks good. I said, I don't want to make the transaction, thought it was a fair price. So I pulled into Peter's parking lot and I realized, hey, Peter is living in a townhouse complex. It's a nice townhouse complex, but it's a townhouse complex. And I guess he's not on HF. I guess he really doesn't have the ability to set up a good HF antenna. Well, I was in for a shock because Peter and I started to talk. And as we talked, he said, "Hey, do you see those trees over in the corner of the parking lot?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. Look at those." And this is an actual photo of those trees. He says, "There's my HF antenna." Then he takes me down to the basement and he shows me his shack. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This is like, and I want to get into this with Peter. This is not just a shack. I mean, there's linear amplifiers in there. There's everything under the sun. And I could not, my brain was seeing the shack, but it was missing those towers and yaggies out back that was going to make operating there a real possibility. Yeah, Tim, go ahead.
Hey, is that the famous Costco folding table I see there?
Yeah.
I got a couple of those. Those are cool.
Yeah.
Those are badass. Don't.
They spent all the money on the radios.
Right.
That's funny about that table. That table is my staple for field day and the CQ Worldwide contest. When I go
How
out
about
portable,
that, huh?
that's the table I use. I've got one of them too. Best money I ever spent in ham radio, probably.
Got it.
Okay,
Sorry.
so thanks for that, Tim. Let's move on to this. So I was so fascinated by what Peter had done, and he turned on the rigs. He showed me, it's like I couldn't believe. Like number one, I'm thinking, okay, if you've got indoor antennas or you've got compromised antennas, you're not hearing people very well, or you're so inundated with noise, RF generated local noise, that you're just not going to have any effectiveness at all. So with that having been said, Peter, I want to get into this, but if you wouldn't mind, maybe just take a couple minutes and tell us about, who you are, what you've done professionally for a living. You're retired now, and how you got into radio. Would you mind just walking us through that?
Okay, yeah. I don't know where to start, but basically I started off as a 13-year-old who got interested in my father's station. He's got a ham radio station and also a maritime mobile. He had a 65-foot yacht at that time, and so I started asking him questions, and he got me tickled. And after that, I got interested, and pretty soon I took over his station. and of course, over the years, I went to university, and while I was there, I was cutting classes just to be able to go to the ham station and be able to work, DX at those times, during those times when the band opening was really great. So from there, I did a couple of jobs. I mean, I went to advertising, went into the engineering aspect of construction, and became part of an engineering company employing 5,000 engineers and skilled workers deployed in the Middle East. From there, we went to Canada and migrated here, and from there, I got organized a factory service depot for Sony, Panasonic, JBC, and other brands like Samsung, Emerson. I couldn't recall all of it, but I did that for quite a while with 6 or 7 technicians, and then after that, I got into manufacture of equipment, electronic products in China, and then exported them to Europe and North America. After that, of course, I retired, having done a lot of those things. And of course, the first thing I did when I got into Canada was to take my exam. And of course, I got an advanced license, and I started to organize my station. And from there, I got we moved from one place, but prior to that, we were there in that place, and I erected a tower and a couple of antennas, and one of them is a cubical quad for 20 meters that works as well on 40, and then from there we moved to a city called Hamilton, which is pretty close to Niagara Falls. Mm-hmm. And the most unfortunate thing is the QTH is in a townhouse, and I was, I said to myself, this is the end of ham radio for me. And on top of that, it's pretty close to a 300 kilovolt transmission line of coming from the Niagara Falls generating station. So all the negatives were there. So I said, I'm not going to give up. So I sold all my equipment and had to start from scratch. And that was the time when we moved in here, and I started buying radios like the 7200. And then I said to myself, well, I'm not going to let the no antenna policy of the HOA get me down. I'll figure out a way to get on air and go back to DX.
That's
right. And when I mean DX, you're talking of working the Philippines, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, Indonesia, the rest of the countries, like also India and the Middle East, and of course South America, South Africa, and all of that. And that's what you see. The antenna that I erected on those trees that was presented by Tracy. But the main antenna that I love the most is the one located in the attic, and that thing. It's I hope it's not too complicated for everyone, for the listeners, but what I did was to design a log periodic for 20 meters, utilizing a delta loop configuration, and each loop has instead of only having one wavelength, each loop has 1.5 or three half waves, and that in itself has a gain of at least 5 to 7 dB. And what I did was to put it in a log periodic combination of 4s. One set pointing north and south, the other one is east and west. And then combine it as a collinear array. And boy, on 20 meters, it even beats the guys who are running TH. I have a friend who has a TH7 DXX, and I beat him all the time, contacting the Philippines and
with
Japan
an attic antenna.
Yeah, precisely.
That's amazing.
But remember, I put about 800 feet of wires in there, in a log periodic combination where each element is interconnected 180 degrees out of phase. And I was using, very cheap materials like the TV balance line, and which I use also for the outdoor antennas. So after completing this project, I went preparing the other antennas, like an 80-meter delta loop, and then the other one is a biquad. Now, if you Google that, you will see what it looks like. It's basically like 2 cubical quads, diamonds, and it's connected at the ends, and then fed by a 300 ohm line. And I did a 2 sets of that, and it's called the double biquad. And then, of course, on top of that, I also have the end-fed antenna, and so on and so forth. So, more or less, that's what has been happening as far as my radios, antennas are concerned. And of course, the ham station. When I got back into the hobby here in Hamilton, I said, I'm going to come back with a vengeance. I'm going to get the most expensive radios I can afford. So, so I got the FTDX 101. No, first I got the 7300, and then I got the FTDX 10, and then it took me time to compare the two, and boy, I tell you, ICOM has a very, very noisy receiver compared to Jesus. And not being satisfied with that, I bought the FTDX 101 Delta, and I said, I'll get myself another one, which is the 7610, and I will compare all the 4 radios using the different antennas on DX. And lo and behold, this is where I am. Now, not being satisfied with that, I got a Flex radio, the 6400. A friend of mine who's also an avid ham operator could not put up an antenna because of the restrictions. So I said, okay, you come over and bring your iPhone and we'll program it so you can operate it anywhere you want. and that's what I've been doing so far. So like I said, there are great plans for antenna improvements. But I'm telling you guys, if you have to retire and you have to go to a townhouse or a no antenna HOA management of a complex, don't despair, because there are ways and means of getting around that and beating the HOA. And they wouldn't know anything about it because you can plan it carefully and make sure everything is stealth in this case. So back to you there, Tracy. I hope.
Okay. So just while we're here, so we've got some newcomers, some people who have logged in. We got Marty, KM6PRA. Thanks for joining us. Jeffrey Jones, greetings from Georgia. Whiskey Ford, Juliet Hotel X-Ray. Nice to see you again. Cam Curtis from our friend, one of our friends from Australia, Victor Kilo 4, Foxtrot Lima. Non-standard ham. Don't call me late for dinner, whatever that, that's the only time you have to worry about being late, right? Philip, KA4KOE. I don't know what you're referring to with that one. Are you Philip? Okay. And then Luis Sanchez. Do you have any concerns with radiation from the attic antenna? What do you say, Peter?
Yes and no. What I've done is get a field strength meter, and I have it at the background on top of my radio, and I put a piece of wire as an antenna. And what I do is every time I transmit, I use that to sniff if there is any RF. Usually, if I put it right across, on the feed line itself, then of course I would get an RF deflection. But I would go around the house, even under the attic, and I wouldn't get any. I don't have any RF or stray RF that the field strength meter could detect. So to answer your question, no, I'm not worried about that because and most of the time when I operate that antenna, I make sure nobody is around. That's one of the penalties of having a stealth station. You don't want to mess around with your neighbors and interfere with their fire alarm systems, with their stereos and stuff like that. So I normally operate it. Most of these guys, anyways, who are living in the condos are working. So most of them are nowhere during the hours that I operate the station. So back to you. I hope that answers the question there, Tracy.
Okay, great. Now you guys are going to want to check this out. Juan Gonzalez has chimed in. Now read this, but there's a part 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Someone at the
All
door.
right.
Oh.
That is a classic.
That's
An
a fun
absolute
part.
classic. Peter, a question from John. Which radio is your favorite then?
Oh, no doubt the FTDX 101D. And, for a good reason. Most of the radios that you buy on the market is actually meant to, market their products without really, well, it's a question of being able to sell more radios and packaging your radios to the extent that the technical aspect is sacrificed sometimes. And this is what happens about to the radio architecture, especially the receiver. For a lot of you guys who understand about radio architecture, from the antenna, it's normally connected to to your front end of the receiver, and it's connected to the band pass filter, which is then connected to the reciprocal mixer. What has happened to radios like ICOM, Kenwood, and all the others? They have put a preamplifier between these two circuits. And so when you look at the S meter, when you compare it with the Yaesu, let's say FTDX 101D or the FTDX 10, these radios are usually 2 S units lower in terms of, when you tune into the same signal, utilizing the ICOM and the, let's say the 101 versus the 7610. Okay, so when you listen to a station, you'd say, wow, the ICOM is more sensitive than the ISO because the S meter reading is always 2 S units higher than the ICOM, than the ISO. And the reason being is because they put a preamplifier between those stages on the bandpass filter and the reciprocal mixer. So, and you can't switch that off. Now, on the other hand, what Yaesu did is also install a preamp, but you can switch it off. And when you switch it off, of course your S meter reading will drop by 2 S units compared to ICOM, but the synod, the signal to noise plus distortion, improves dramatically compared to when you put the preamp on. And this is one of the areas that I found, because for the longest time, I've always been buying ICOM products because of this. But when I discovered this, and this was pointed out by a friend of mine, VE3RQS, who used to test, military radios, for the U.S. Navy before, and then the Canadian Navy, and he pointed this out to me, and he said, when you look at any receiver, don't look at the S meter alone. Look at the synod. In other words, the readability of the signal in relation to the noise that you have. And to me, that was really the killer, the bottom line, because with that, you know the you're able to fool around with the sensitivity of the receiver and also its selectivity. And the selectivity, of course, is further enhanced by the pre-selector circuit, which Rod, VE3RQS, also pointed out that in the olden days when he used to service, radios on board U.S. Navy aircraft carriers, battleships, destroyers, and the like, he said all of those radios have what you call as pre-selectors. And it's not only one stage pre-selector. You have 4 stages where you tuned and really make the front end of those radios super selective. And this is one of the things that 101 Delta has. And I tell you, in terms of selectivity, it suppresses the noise and interference minus 70 dB outside of the pass band. Of course, after the reciprocal mixer, you also have the roofing filter, and with the roofing filter, it is combined with things like you have a dual conversion IF, which starts at 9 megahertz down to 24 hertz. Rod was telling me that the old radios, it was pretty standard to have a let's say an IF that begins at, let's say, 10 megahertz and down to 455 kilohertz. But with the 101 Delta, from 455 kilohertz IF, it is down to 24. So go figure how narrow it gets with that dual conversion, super heterodyne front end. That's the reason why it's only Yaesu that can claim that they have a narrowband SDR, and SDRs are great, but I think they're not as selective as when you have the design that the Yaesu has. A friend of mine was joking. He was saying, "Why don't you sell receivers? Or have you become a Yaesu salesman the way you talk?" So, anyway, enough of that. I think that more or less answers the question.
So,
go ahead,
ham radio
Tracy.
lore has always been, or at least the way I've heard it, is that you had the 3 major brands, right? The ICOM, the Kenwood, and the Yaesu. And the ICOM was always known for its receiving quality. The Kenwood was always known for its transmit audio. And then, and the Yaesu was kind of somewhere in the middle. So you're telling me that the ICOM gets that receiving reputation by juicing up the S meter.
Yeah, the thing is this. In fact, I had an Elecraft before, and the KX3, and compared that with the 7200 that I had, and I called the technician at Elecraft and I said, how is your S meter calibrated? And he was saying that, well, at S9 it's 100 microvolts without load. That's EMF, and with the load it's minus 50 microvolts. And the thing is, ICOM. I said ICOM. When I called ICOM, they said it's the same thing, same calibration standards that they use. But then I asked the Elecraft technician, and I said, but how come the ICOM S meter is always two S units higher than yours? He says, I don't know what they're doing, but one thing I could tell you, it is properly calibrated. And so I only found the answer when I studied the block diagram of the ASU versus the ICOM versus Kenwood versus the other radios. And that's what I found out. ICOM has an unswitchable. You cannot switch off the preamplifier between the bandpass filter and the reciprocal mixer. And because of that, it is very susceptible to noise. Any introduction of any signal at the front end will be magnified by the preamp. And usually it's anywhere from 18 to 20 dB. And so what did ICOM do? To improve their selectivity and knock off the preamplifier, they have introduced an attenuator circuit that goes up to 45 dB, minus 45. But in doing so, the behavior of the preamplifier will always be to magnify noise. And the preamplifier does not make a distinction between noise and intelligible signal or readability.
Hey, Peter, sorry, I want to jump in here because Marty, KM6PRA, has given us a comment here, and he's just mentioned that he runs his 101D to a tuner to the downspout of the gutter. And this is always, we're talking about stealth, and your particular, in your one situation where you've got that 80-meter loop outside. How, and I've got a couple of photos to show here, but how did you get the coax into the building without tipping anybody in the HOA off that, hey, we've got a guy with illegal gear here?
That's classified.
That's right.
Yeah, go ahead. Are you going to make a comment?
Go ahead, Peter.
Okay. All right. As you can see on the photo, the fence is situated behind our condo unit or the townhouse unit, and I don't know if you have a photo of the ground, of the fence. There you go.
Oh.
All right. Now, what I did was to dig, not a trench, because a trench will be so obvious. So what I did was wait for the thawing of the snow, and early spring where the rain was really hard, and usually, the grass is going through that stage of what you call as a liquefaction. Liquefaction is the stage where, when there is so much water, the soil almost turns into liquid. So it's liquefied in that sense. Now, instead of using a pick and shovel, I got me a fork. I think you have a picture of that, Tracy.
Oh, I don't know if I've got that on the slide deck here.
Well, at that point, you could almost push it in with your hands.
Almost. So if you use the fork, create a line without ruining the grass, you basically could, put it in, and then rock it back and forth till it creates the holes.
A little cave, sure.
Well, you have four forks, 4 teeth. that you sink in between the grass. And once it's set in, then you get the spade, a flat shovel, and you shove it in, and you create a slit or a slice.
Sure. Are you doing just cable? You're not putting a pipe around the cable or anything. You're just doing direct bury.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. What I did in the beginning was to put a PVC pipe, 3/4 inch or an inch in diameter, and put the cables inside. That was the beginning. And I buried it about 8 to 10 inches deep.
Wow.
And once it's inside, then, you just stomp on the grass, and nobody would know, because by that time the grass really looks awful. And when you do that, when spring arrives and the soil hardens, then the start of the grass would start to grow. So initially I buried 3 a PVC pipe. I think I used also a BX. I took out the BX wires inside and put the cables. And so initially I put, it's a combination of the PVC pipe and the BX, especially on the corners. So that was the initial burial that I did. After a while, I got me direct burial cables.
Yeah.
And I dug another, the following spring, or the following spring, I dug another slit or slice, and put in direct burial cables. And I'm going to do that. So in total, I think I have about 7 of them buried. And now I will probably put 3 more burial cables
Yeah,
And
that's,
in there.
This is the twin lead you buried, right? The 300 ohm twin lead.
The 300 ohm, no. These are
cable
all
cable.
coaxial cables.
Okay. I thought it was a twin lead. Okay.
Yeah, that's
But I could do that by putting it inside the PVC.
Right.
Oh, there's another item that I discovered.
well, wait,
They have the RG8, the RG6 direct burial cables. You can actually get 2 of those and just use the center lead and use that as a balance line.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I did that already, and it works as good as a 300 ohm line.
Well, yeah, it's a 1/4 inch thick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nobody
When you
saw-
put two RG6 cables, they're about half an inch apart. I mean, the center conductors. And guess what? The noise level drops when you use that, as opposed to an ordinary 300 TV line.
And nobody saw you. You did
No,
this at
no.
night.
I
right?
had to do it pretty close to midnight or after midnight.
Yeah. Nobody peeked out their window.
Nobody's
Nobody's looking out the window saying, "Oh, Peter's at it again. What's he doing out there?" And you didn't tell him you were like digging for worms or something. No?
No, I was just saying that I was fixing my wife's garden.
There you go.
There you go. Planting tomatoes.
You know what? At this time, gentlemen, I think it's time to try the giveaway. And I say try because we haven't used this tool before. So here's how the way it's supposed to work. I am going to click a button here. And what I need people who are watching the live stream to do is I need you to just send a comment. Like it can be hi, it can be gibberish. When I give the word, you do that. We're going to let it run for, 30, 40 seconds or whatever. Get in there, and the software will randomly choose one of the people. Okay, so let's one sec before I get doing this. Okay, let's get your texts, your comments in there, and let's see who wins a gift card.
So all they have to do is comment in the comment section in the chat, right?
That's it.
So they can just,
That's it.
haha in the chat, and they're registered.
You
Pedro,
got
you
it.
got to get Pedro, get in the chat.
So people are saying hi. I get that. Hello.
And
hi.
by the way, VE3CUZ, it doesn't matter how many times you do it, you'll only get credit for one. It's a little smarter than your average bear.
And they can write anything.
Yep. Well, hopefully it's clean, family friendly.
He wrote gibberish.
Well, you did say you can write gibberish. That's what they're doing. I knew that was going to happen. Ham radio operators are literal when it comes to that.
And how long does this go on for?
Until I say so.
Okay.
So just make sure I want to give everybody a chance to make sure that they've got their comment in. Send me your comment okay, I guess we're going to pull the plug now. Everybody's done it. So now there's a big button here that has draw written on it. And right now I'm going to click it.
And?
I don't know if there's a way to get this on the screen or not. The winner is Cam Curtis, Victor Kilo 4, Foxtrot Lima. Congratulations, Cam.
Kudos to you.
Now Victor Kilo 4, Foxtrot Lima, Tim.
Yes.
So we're gonna have to figure out how to get Cam.
So what I'll do is I'll go into my eBay settings and I will just create a private coupon or promo code for him, and then we can send it to him. So we'll need some contact information. We email that to him, and then he can just go there, buy whatever he wants, and it'll either be $100 taken off. I don't know. Shipping to Australia can be kind of tough.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the shipping just doubled. And if it's if it's less than $100, then of course it's free. But if you want something that's more, it'll be get it for $100. We just like having a coupon code. So
all right, fantastic. I'm gonna have to get more savvy with this going forward. I think what I needed to do was share that screen as it was doing the drawing. I'll do that next time, folks. So thanks for bearing with us while we try to enroll a new feature here. So
we talked
Peter,
about it, right? We talked about it. It was like, okay, so we did a couple of beta experiments with it while we were talking the other night. And I think we agreed that the thing to do is to just, throw it out there, and our audience would understand. They're a pretty generous, forgiving group. So
yeah, absolutely. Peter, do you want to take just a minute as we wrap up here? So getting the coax from its clandestine location outside into the house. Have you got any tips for us for that?
Yeah. The first thing is always maintain a positive attitude that you're going to beat those HOA guys. Okay. That's number one. Number two is do a lot of what you call as imagineering. Imagination leads to engineering. And that's what Disneyland quoted or always said to his people. You have to do a lot of imagineering to be able to get to the place where you want. So, and then the other thing, of course, is the next thing is do a lot of planning and drop or draw out alternatives and grade the alternatives according to the difficulties that you will encounter. Then afterwards, prepare all the necessary materials. Now, before undertaking your project or even beginning to implement, make sure you have all the materials together, because you don't want to dig your a hole or a slice of the soil, and then you don't have the necessary materials to finish it. So that's really very important. And then, of course, the other thing is, once you do it, give yourself time to implement this. It's not a 1 day or 2 day or a 1 week project. Usually, in my case, it takes weeks and even months to complete. So it's the key there is perseverance, determination, and a sense of satisfaction, and being able to congratulate yourself once the project is done.
Very
So
nice.
that's it.
Peter,
Yep.
we're at the top of the hour. Normally, we like to wrap these things up after an hour, but we've still got a good number of viewers, and there's some questions coming in. Do you mind staying a little bit longer?
No problem.
Fantastic. Okay, so Levi has a question for us on the bottom of the screen here. How did Peter put the antenna in the trees? Is it in the horizontal position? Is it an end-fed half wave? Could you answer?
Okay. It's very simple. Like I said, I during the 60 years of ham radio, I put up many towers. In fact, the tallest was a 150-foot tower, and the the expense is really enormous. So buying the right equipment for projects in no antenna OHA is very, very minuscule compared to what I used to spend on antennas, on towers, and stuff like that. In the beginning, I spend some money on slingshots and bow and arrow and so on and so forth, and I found them to be all ineffective. So eventually, what I decided is to get the arborist throw slingshot. It's a giant slingshot. If you Google it, you will see what I mean. And that's what I use now. When you put up the antenna, I'm very partial to putting up loop antennas as opposed to dipoles or end-fed antennas, although I have an end-fed that I use with my Flex radio. The reason being is that you can use the slingshot to throw a messenger line, and then you can put it on top of the canopy and then pull the other side, and then utilize the radiating element. Now, one word about the radiating element is this. I used all kinds of wires in the beginning, and they all broke. And so I said, I got to get something really, really strong. And then I found out that a copper-clad wire that they use for clothesline is the best, because you can get a 500-pound load test up to 1,000 plus load test. And when I put up that on a couple of trees, and they swung wildly during storms, I said, wow, here we go again. I'm going to have to replace them. But lo and behold, it didn't break. It held. It withstand all the counter forces of the leaves and the branches. And these are big trees. So you would say, well, is that better than copper? Let's say copper wire that you buy out of Home Depot? Yes, it is. If you would note, those who work with the military, they don't use copper wires for antennas. They use steel, but it's copper clad.
Copper clad steel. Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't break. So, like for instance, on what Rod
Heavy.
used to do, he would install antennas on destroyers, and they would use copper clad steel antennas, really big ones, because when those ships start to roll and slam, those antennas will break if they're not properly calculated to withstand those forces. So, per my experience, the copper clad wires, the clothesline will be the best. Now, as to the shape, don't worry about the shape when you put it on top of the canopy. It can be a semicircle, it could be a delta loop, it could be a rectangle, it could be a trapezoid. For as long as the antenna wires are stretched out and properly spaced properly, then you would get a very good resonance and good performance. So if you go close, you get the binoculars and try to see how my antenna looks like, you'll be amazed because it looks like a spaghetti up there, but they still work in this particular case. And like I said, the loop is the best because the loop, number one, it is a very quiet antenna. Number two, it is grounded. It is a grounded antenna, unlike a dipole or an end-fed. Those are very noisy antennas because the ends of those antennas are susceptible to high voltage. When you look at the current distribution on the radiating element, you will find out that the dipole has the highest voltage at the ends and the lowest at the middle. So what happens is when you have noise, the noise will always come to the ends of the dipoles. But with the loop, to begin with, it's grounded. It loops like that, and it's connected to the center conductor. And even when it actually reduces the static noise, it has much less static noise than the dipoles or the end-feds. So I hope that answers the question. Tracy?
Good stuff. Okay, thank you very much, Peter. So here's another question. What balun do you use on your loops?
Okay. You have two types of loops that you could use. You can have a resonant loop or the non-resonant loop. For the design frequency, fundamental frequency, for instance, on 40 meters, if you use the formula, let's say 1,005 or even 1,000 divided by frequency, the length of your loop, full length, is about 137 to 140 feet. Let's say 137. So that is resonant on 40, and it will be resonant on let's say on 80, but it would lack the inductance when you go to 160. So what happens is it becomes non-resonant to certain frequencies, and in this particular case, it is best to use a transformer, a 300 ohm or a 450 ohm ladder line, because your loop will become multiband if you use a balanced line. Now, and of course, you have to compute that. you have to, if the design frequency is, let's say, 40 meters, and you want to use it for 80, then you have to use a quarter wave feed line, a balance line. So in this particular case, it would be good to use um, uh, a quarter wave on 80, although it is designed for 40, is about 60 feet of, let's say, the 450 ohm ladder line. The reason being is it becomes a 2-to-1 transformer when you operate that 40-meter loop onto 80. Now, here's another secret. You can make it into a double loop. Instead of only having a 137 loop, you get another 137 loop, put it on parallel, and what you could do is offset the second loop as compared to the first loop. So there is an offset of 90 degrees. When you do it this way, you basically, although it's still designed for 40, it will now work on 80 and 160 using a 60-foot ladder line. Now, after the ladder line, you connect an RG8 or even an RG11. You know, the geometric mean between 75 and 1200 ohms, especially for non-resonant antennas, is about 300 ohms. So if you use a balanced line of 300 ohms, you are within the ballpark of the geometric mean, and therefore the tunability of your antenna, you'll be amazed, because even without the tuner, all the bands will work below, will have an SWR of below 2-to-1. So that becomes really a nice antenna. And like I said, you have a 40-meter loop. By just doubling that, you're able to operate now not only on 80, but you can go down to 160. And then you can go up to 6 meters. Now, you could also use a ballad. You can use a 4-to-1 ballad, and then, of course, a coaxial cable. But the only problem with that particular setup is the problem of skin effect radiation. And of course, you could put isolators. You can loop it and stuff like that. But like I said, I don't like balloons, especially if I have to run a kilowatt or the legal limit. Let's say here in Canada, I think we're allowed up to 2,000 output, RF output. While you guys down south, I think is 14 or 1,500.
It's 1,500.
And if you have a balun, you can burn it easily. So does that answer the question?
I think you've done an excellent job with that, Peter. And
Okay.
you know what? I think that's a great way to wrap everything up here. I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to join us, and it's very informative. You've obviously got a wealth of knowledge, and I get the feeling we've only scratched the surface of it.
I'm glad to share it, and there's a lot more. Like you said, it's just the surface, because antennas, particularly, an antenna system is an LC circuit, and there are many aspects to this, and you have to understand how they behave as an LC circuit, pretty much like the magnetic loop. And when you begin to understand these things, uh, you know, just give me a piece of wire and any coax or balance line, and I can make it resonant or non-resonant and make it operate, because all that I have to follow is the principle of the LC circuit. So, like I said, it's just a surface that we have scratched, but hey, I'm here as a resource person if you need me, Tracy, over.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. So we've covered a wide range of things tonight. Do you have any final thoughts for people regarding what we may have talked about tonight? Something you could, summarize in a few sentences here?
Yeah, never give up. If you have to retire, don't give up, because there's always a solution, and a stealth is the way to go. And the way to do it is always engage in what I call as imagineering.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Chris, final thoughts from yourself?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Actually, so I've been encouraged knowing that I have a Yaesu radio, and that means I have the best receiver on the market. So I'm happy with that. And I also, Peter, I'm surrounded by trees on my property here, and I've really struggled. I have an arborist line on some power cord, and I've tried to toss that thing as high as I can. But I wrote down to Google the arborist slingshot you were talking about. So I've got that. That's in my my list of things to do. Once I'm off here, I'm hopping on Google to look for that.
By the way, stay away from power cord. They're a horrible line.
Told you.
Stay with the Dacron and polyester. Dacron.
For permanent installation, yes. But like when you're in the field, like doing something like Tracy does, or if I want to throw a wire up in a tree temporarily, power cord, man, throw it up and done, take it down. Yeah.
That's good enough. Yeah.
But at home, I have the Dacron. Actually, antenna line I get from Quicksilver Radio, which works great. So
I have been a sailor myself since I was a kid. I've owned a lot of sailboats during my lifetime, and Dacron is the only thing that lasts under the sun.
Yes,
and also under stress, especially when you use it for sailing. Yeah.
Okay.
Back to you.
All right, Tim. What about you? Final thoughts?
No, this was exciting. We didn't get to talk about the Christmas tree looking antenna though, which was the loop when you folded up the points of the triangle.
Yeah.
And it was at I'm gonna build that. I want that.
Delta loop.
Yeah,
that's a delta loop.
But it was pointed up, right? So if I use my imagination, I have a big tree, the top of which is the point of that antenna, and it just comes down like a triangle, right? But I've got
a delta loop.
4 points, which is the loop with the two ends brought up.
Yeah. If you can, double that loop.
Right. Yeah.
Make one east-west and the other one north and south.
And
then feed it in parallel.
The picture in the materials that you sent to Tracy.
Yeah.
You have a picture of the loop, and then you say, oh, by the way, if you have the two triangles and you take the ends and you point them up, it becomes like I don't know, like a broadhead arrow tip, right? Standing on it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm gonna do that. So at some point.
Oh, you won't be disappointed because that is so easy to make, and the impedance of that is very close to 50 ohms on all frequencies.
Easy to make, yes. Not maybe so easy to put up.
Yeah. Well, you need the arborist.
I have it. Yeah, I have. No, I have an air cannon that I use.
Okay. That's excellent.
You might want to try that on the squirrels.
Oh,
no, you kill the squirrels if you hit them.
It depends on where you hit the squirrel.
So my neighbor and I were joking around, just before we go, right? So I had the cannon out and I was trying to put I've got two big trees, so I bring out the cannon and he's looking at me and he's like, so and we've known each other he's lived there for 25 years or whatever. So, hey, what's that? And so showing them. So it's all it is a PVC pipe. You take the old Rainbird valves, the sprinkler valves, sprinkler
Yep.
valve, and you know what I'm talking about, right? It's all
Right.
all on YouTube. You can see that. So I usually take mine. I put about maybe 30 pounds in it, 35 pounds or whatever, and it shoots the weight bag, a fair distance, let's say.
Okay. Yeah, do you use a tennis ball or?
No. I use
Oh,
that is
wow. Yeah,
200
throw bag.
that is a
throw weight.
So if you take, actually, I made like a styrofoam sabo for it.
Yeah.
Fits in the tube.
Yeah.
And so it shoots out, the little foam piece flies off or whatever, but the thing goes. And we were talking about it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I wonder." I was like, "That thing looks pretty powerful." So I was just goofing around.
Yeah.
And so I put like 40 pounds in it. And
how far?
well,
how
we have
high?
we have a big fence in the backyard, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh well, here, so I shot it at the fence, right, and blew a hole in the
Whoa.
So
But how high can it go?
let's see. I've got it. Well, I'm into the tops of trees, easily into the tops of trees, and over.
50, 60, 70?
No, higher than that. Let's see. I've got
100?
See, I did an 80 meter end fed, right? So what is that? 132?
100? Yeah.
Something like that.
135. Yeah.
Okay, so half of that would be let's call it 75 feet.
60.
Yeah. So let's call 75 feet because I'm going over the tree and down the other side.
Wow.
So easily 35 pounds over the top of that tree.
Wow. That's good. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. But yeah, I was just goofing, right? And I'm like, boom. And, holy shit.
Yeah. So what do you use compressed air?
Yeah.
And you have a device.
I've got a compressor out in the garage, but my goal is when I take it portable, I either want to take this one or make a smaller one that I can use portable, and you get one of those little 12-volt tire inflators, right?
Yeah.
And just fill it up like that, because if you can get 20 pounds in that thing for a portable antenna, like for Pod or something like that,
that's powerful.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
The slingshot you're talking about is that the 2 stakes you put in the ground and then pull
it
out? That looks,
you need to put your weight to be able to draw it.
Yeah,
It can go easily 100 feet high.
Oh, sure. But I like mechanized.
Right.
Power tool.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, it's been fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in, watched us. Really appreciate it. Thanks to anybody who is watching this post event. We look forward to bringing more of this sort of stuff to you in the future. We do a live stream every month, typically on a Thursday evening. So watch Chris's channel and my channel for announcements of upcoming streams.
And make sure you subscribe to both of our channels.
Absolutely, please do.
Hey, like and subscribe.
Subscribe. That's it.
Well,
the standard line is you have to say smash the like button.
Oh yes, you can't just click on it. Yeah, you got to smash it.
Smash it.
All right. So the 4 guys, including myself here on the stream, hang on after we disconnect, and we'll just regroup afterwards. Tim, something else before we go?
We need Cam's data.
So Cam, we have his call sign, and
if he's got his email address linked into QRZ, we can look him up there.
Got it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Okay. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. And thanks again to Peter, our special guest. Been a
You're welcome.
hour. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay. Goodbye, all.